That says live. It says live up there now. Hey,
Yep,
everybody, come on in. Come on in, folks. The chat is on. So step on in. Come on in, everyone. Let me go over to my Facebook and switch my. I always forget to do this. This is an important episode. There we go. Now I am public on Facebook. Come on in, everybody. Chat's live. We're all good. We're gonna talk. We're gonna be stripping today.
Live on air.
No polls, just stripping. Yeah, comic strips, folks. Here we go. I got an opening. This will give you a taste of something about what we'll be talking about today. See how many of these you remember. Everybody, come on in. We're going to talk comic strips today. Got a bunch of stuff to show you. Got a bunch of stuff to talk about. I'm your host, Randy Zimmerman. I've been doing alternative and independent comics for decades. Been a fan of comics all my life, all kinds of comics. And this is definitely one of them. When you talk about the art form of sequential art, everything runs from editorial cartoons, Punch magazine, where they were picking on politicians and decided to turn them into pigs, donkeys, and elephants, to comic strips in the newspapers, because you didn't have television. You only had the movies for entertainment and the radio to listen to. And long before television, long before streaming, long before all of this, everybody used to go to their newspaper to get informed and to be entertained. And in the back of the newspapers, there were always a couple pages of comic strips. And these are comic strips of all types, humor strips, adventure strips, covering all demographics. And for many years, the artists that worked on those comic strips were in high regard. They were like superstars, considered to be the best of the best. And they were fought over by these newspapers and given more money than what they even make today. I mean, Outcult, who started Yellow Kid way back in the teens and the 20s, was fought over by the Hearst newspapers and a few of the other syndicates. And he ended up making an incredible fortune. And if you you ride that into modern inflation, he was a multi-millionaire.
Wow.
When it was done. Created Buster Brown, which turned into Buster Brown shoes. Did the Yellow Kid for many years, was fought over. Having a comic strip was so prestigious. You were almost on the same level as a Hollywood actor, if not higher, if you had a major strip in a lot of these papers. Everybody back then knew the names of Al Capp, Milt Caniff, Chester Gould, Alex Raymond, Hal Foster, Bern Hogarth. All of these were great illustrators, great masters of their art form. And so nowadays, you hardly ever hear about them. You hardly ever see them. A lot of kids growing up now doing sequential art, kids, 20, 30 years old, have never seen a lot of this artwork. And there's been quite a few strip collections done, reprint collections done. And luckily, everything's still on photostats and all of this. So they're able to make these collections. IDW made collections for many years. Fantagraphics did collections for many years. And even now, you don't see that very much anymore. You're not seeing this stuff staying in print like it should be. And those collections that you see on eBay and on Amazon or wherever are getting harder and harder to find and more expensive as time goes along. And they're very underappreciated in my opinion. So we're going to talk about those strips today, and strips from all over the world. And a lot of these strips are known all over the world. And they became major icons back in the 20s and 30s. So we're going to bring Mitch in here. And we're just getting the introduction done. Mitch, thanks for joining us. Also joining me today is Mr. Glenn Fleming. Glenn, introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. My name's Glenn Fleming. I'm a writer, artist, and publisher. The author of this book, about my visits to Jack Kirby in the late 80s and early 90s. And get this book through me, and with it you get a DVD of me talking with him in his studio. I'm the creator and artist of Hatch. This is the cover for the second book, which is coming out on Indiegogo in the new year, or sometime, hopefully. It's been a while since that one's been arriving. And I also publish this magazine. It's a 100-page quarterly, Comics Unlimited. Number 11 is currently on sale on Amazon, and you can get all my stuff, or most of my stuff, on Amazon if you go there.
And you cover all sorts of different comics in that in the magazine too. I saw.
Yeah, we go through. Yeah, we can see them on the cover there. This is issue 1. We do all kind of things. We've got some great articles by a guy called Randy Zimmerman about his Arrow comics in number 10 and 11. We've got another article about some other guy, what's he called, Russ somebody on this panel, about his comic, which only death can save us. So yeah, it covers the whole gamut of comics through the ages. Lots to go at.
Great. Also joining us today is Mr. Russ Leach. Russ, introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi, my name is Russ Leach. I am a comic book artist from the UK. You can find me in the pages of books that aren't in front of me right at the moment because I'm not very organised today because I've just come back off holiday.
That's all right.
But yeah, you can find me in Batman in the UK and Europe, and my own book, Only Death Can Save Us. Been in and around publishing for quite some time, and comic book publishing for a fraction of that. Stuff with Marvel, DC, Warner Brothers. So been around, done some stuff, and you can find out about that at russleach.com.
Was it a warmer holiday?
No, it was a colder one.
Was it? Okay.
we went to the New Forest for 3 or 4 days.
There's an old forest?
There is an old forest, yes. Okay. We don't talk about the old forest. Don't go in the old forest.
That's where all the evil things.
That's where all the goblins,
demons are.
Yeah.
Demons.
So where can I find this old forest?
Yeah. Mitch wants to go.
Well, there's a great old forest in
it's a black forest in Germany.
In London.
Yeah.
But unfortunately there's an awful lot of criminals buried there. So you don't go on there. Don't go to Epping Forest.
Buried there?
Yeah.
Suddenly I want to go.
There's a lot of crims that didn't end up in prison but ended up
in the forest.
In the ground, in the forest, yeah.
That's why we have the desert out here in Las Vegas. Yeah.
See, that's in Essex. It's like it's one of the counties that's least crime in it, because you don't want to go and burgle a house just in case you're burgling someone who'll blow your kneecaps off. So it's just best not to do it. Don't engage.
Yep. Understood. Was it a good holiday though?
It was very nice. Thank you very much. It was relaxing. I needed a few days away, and so did my wife. So
everybody needs that time away just to stay sane.
Yeah, back on it now.
Yeah. So. Also joining us today is Mr. Mitch Rogers. Mitch, introduce yourself.
Good day, Mitch.
Hi, I'm Mitch Rogers. I'm a horror comics creator from South Carolina, creator of the Boger comic book series Southern Gothic, which is out now via my website.
There, I just blew you up just as you moved the book. Yeah, there you go.
Here,
in a turtle shirt this morning. Yeah.
Actually, it's Lizard Man.
Lizard Man. Yeah. Pardon me.
Yeah, I was a guest at the Lizard Man festival 5 or 6 years ago. I just like the shirt.
It's always good to celebrate your local monsters.
We didn't talk about lizard people.
Yeah.
Hey, it's not a lizard person. It's some kid was drunk and saw it basically, and then
I thought you were going to get into pronouns there for lizard people.
No. It's a local legend down in the coast, near the coast of South Carolina, in the swampy area.
Nice.
Don't go there if you can avoid it.
Pronoun is what the.
So that's the swampy area to avoid. Epping Forest. Where can we go?
Rather go to a dark forest than a swampy area.
Yeah.
Lizard. We have Mothmens, we have Wendigos and Sasquatches up around where we're at, so it's all right. Everybody has their local monster.
Yeah. I just like urban the legend shirt, so I usually just wear it. On
there
my
you
off
go.
Days.
That's cool. It's all
Worst
good.
con I've ever been at, though. But
Oh, we've all got those stories.
yeah, it's not around anymore, so I can say it openly.
Worst con I was at was a gaming convention in Columbus, and I ended up packing up the middle of Sunday because I didn't see anybody. I was tucked away to a corner because I was a comic guy, and they were there for science fiction and gaming. Comics were, on the other side of their nose or down their nose for them. So it's like you comic guys are over here up against the wall. So middle of Sunday, I just packed up and left.
Well, the worst convention I went to was the last one a few years ago, where the guy hadn't even reserved my table for me.
He didn't even reserve a table for you?
No. So
Thanks for coming.
So I couldn't display.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
I just left.
Yeah.
I was there about 30 minutes. Smoke coming out my ears, a lot of effort gone into it all, and just left. What could I do?
I've been shoved in a little room back behind the main huckster's room before, too.
You might want to bring charges for that.
Yeah. And then there was a show I did in Philadelphia where they set us up in an artist alley, little conference room, one floor up from the main convention. So people had to come up to see us. That was great. But it was at that show I created Spank the Monkey.
So did you have time to spank the monkey, or were you just creating the book?
Well, we were talking with the other creators up there. There was a group of us up there, and nobody was coming in, and we were talking about our favorite, characters and our underground characters. Well, I said somebody mentioned Grass Green's Flip the Bird, and I says, well, if you do it today, it would have to be Spank the Monkey, and everybody was laughing, and we just sat there and created him and his brain dead cousin Shock the Monkey, and kind of went from there.
That's a Peter Gabriel track, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yes.
I thought it was Shock the Monkey.
It is Shock the Monkey.
Oh.
Yep. And then I created, I got a whole list of them now. I'm working on a book about comic history that's going to have them all in there. That's Spank the Monkey on the comic market. So that, what it'll call it. I got a little chicken named Choke and a dolphin female character named Flog the dolphin, and a dumb, your typical comic stereotype nerd fan. It's Buck the drooling donkey. So, yeah. Anyway, it'll be a lot of fun when it comes out. I'm about 40 pages in. Just got up to Wonder Woman. So here we go. One of these days I'll finish that off. But COVID and this Liberty fiasco and everything else came up and stalled it. So, but now we're here talking comic strips. It'll be great. And like I said, before there were comic books, there were comic strips. And when there were comic strips, they were in the newspaper and they were read by millions, because you could put a dime down sometimes twice a day, depending upon your city. And you got a morning and an evening edition of that paper. And in that paper were comic strips, all sorts of stuff going on. Not just your news and your sports updates, but your all sorts of comic strips in there as well. One of the earliest comic strips. Let me see if I can scroll up to it here. See if I have it. I probably don't. Yep, that's how coordinated I am. One of the earliest comic strips was Thimble Theater. And what happened is these editorial cartoons, they started stringing them together. Outcult used a character down in the lower corner, a little Oriental, Asian-looking, I don't know how else to describe him, but mentally deficient-looking character that I swear Disney used that image to create Dopey on Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs cartoon. This kid was always in a long yellow shirt, and he got to be known as the Yellow Kid because he was Asian. They colored him yellow because back then stereotypes raged. Comics, a lot of comics are built on the icons and stereotypes of the day. That's why you go back and you look to see how African Americans are portrayed, and you get this stereotype look that nowadays would be culturally offensive. Nobody would do. But back then, that's just the way they accepted that African Americans were drawn. Asians were drawn with buck teeth and slant eyes and yellow faces and all of this. Well, the character, Yellow Kid, was down on the corner, or in the corner of the comic strip, and he always had the last word written on his shirt. That was the punchline for the story that you were reading. And that's also where the expression yellow journalism came from, was off kid. Then all of these editorial cartoons that were in Punch magazines, because before that, when they printed newspapers, they didn't learn how to print photographs for quite a while. And even when they did that, they did it in dots. You know, they had to screen it and put it in dots because they couldn't print photographs straight up at that point inside newspapers, just print it on newsprint. So they started doing etchings and drawings of different people, especially key people in the news. And I don't know who started it, but somewhere in Punch magazine or whatever, they started thinking it was funny to draw these politicians as pigs or as donkeys or as elephants. And if you here in the States, the political parties that we have, the Democratic and Republican Party, and they're symbolized by the donkey and the elephant. And that's where that came from, or from those early editorial cartoons. There's so much of these cartoons were so popular and so raging in their time that they were major stars, and people used to they were addicted to these strips. So pretty quickly they figured out that you could do more than just tell an editorial, a political message with it. You could tell a punchline or a humor story with it. You could tell an adventure story with it. And soon you had creators out there doing all sorts of IPs in every direction that you can imagine that they were offering to these syndicated papers. And here in America, there were thousands of daily papers up until the advent of television. So you had these strips go crazy. And one of the early continuing strips was a family strip that covered the oil family. And there was Castor, there was every oil that you can imagine. Castor Oil started out being the main star of the strip, and he was always going around he was a grifter. He was trying to gyp everybody out of everything. Wimpy came in during that period. His sister was Olive Oil at that point. And instead of calling it the Oil Family, he called it Thimble Theater. E.C. Seeger started Thimble Theater way back in the early 20s, I believe. Let me pull out this incredibly large book again. And another incredibly large book. Fantagraphics has gone through and reprinted the majority of the early Thimble Theaters. That's Olive right there as soon as it straightens out. There was all sorts of family drama going on. As you see there, there's a guy with a gun shooting out the window.
As you do.
Casually.
Yep. And the daily papers were in black and white. The Sunday papers were in color, which just added to all of the fun and the adventure.
So did Popeye turn up in the olive oil in the Thimble Theater? Thimble Theater. That's where he started.
One of the Thimble Theaters had this. They were in a city on a coastline. If you ever see the original, the Popeye movie with Robin Williams.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah,
that's as close to the actual feel that Thimble Theater had, because the screenplay for that was written by Jules Pfeiffer, who was a really big satirist at the time, did a lot of work for the New Yorker and the New York papers. And Jules, they gave him an opportunity to write the Popeye movie. He did Thimble Theater. So, and Popeye was part of that. Obviously, he comes in walking in off the boat, and there's a very I can't even.
When did it turn into Popeye rather than Thimble Theater?
Well, it shifted because Popeye got to be really popular in the strip. There's Olive and Wimpy. There's a little Castor there, I think.
I think one of the greatest, what do you call it? I can't think of the word. Selections for an actress or an actor was Shelley Duvall for
Olive Oil.
Yeah. I think she was perfect, wasn't she? She was really great.
The Fleischer cartoon, instead of doing Thimble Theater, they focused in on Popeye as well. And then the entire idea with the can of spinach and all of that came out of the Fleischer cartoons. And then that evolved the strip. So they dropped the Thimble Theater after a while and just turned it into Popeye. Well, the more of these papers became more competitive with each other, the less room that they had to give on the, and I don't have I was going to pull a little Nemo book and I didn't. If you see any of the older papers from the 20s and 30s, they are tremendously large. They're about the size of that Steranko book that we have here. They fold it out really big
Wow.
tabloid size. And there were just tons of strips. There was usually 2 pages just filled with these strips, and they were printed pretty large at that point. The farther along they got, the more that these newspapers shrank. I was just looking at our Sunday paper that we get here locally, and it's incredibly thin, and the strips are all jammed together, and the single panel strips are barely bigger than a postage stamp, barely like 3 inches square if you're lucky. But back then they were so popular. These strips were so big that originally they were full size, full page strips. So you get people coming in doing adventure strips like Hal Foster and Alex Raymond. They took an entire page of that Sunday section. Thimble Theater, when it first started, took over an entire page. Let me see if I've got any examples of that in here. This is a Fantagraphics reprint book that I was showing you, and that focuses on Popeye. It doesn't have a lot of the early Thimble Theaters, but at that point, you can see here the actual comic strip was a lot longer. The daily strip. It's a collection of probably 1, 2, 3, 4. These are 5 of the daily strips in there, and you can see it's a lot longer than a standard comic strip that is today. You'd see that be about 2/3 of that nowadays for a regular 4-panel strip.
What's that called? Beneath the Whiffle Hen.
For what now? Bernice the Whiffle Hen? Yeah. Bernice. Yep. That's the opening story. This is Castor right here. He was the original. He was the original main character of the strip. Was Castor Oil. And you see short guy, large nose, easy to draw. And again, minimal backgrounds, lots of dialogue going on, lots of stuff. There's a Whiffle Hen right there.
Yeah.
So, and the thing that made this strip was Seeger's sense of humor. And it was really a crazy strip, very inventive for the time. And when Popeye walked in, everybody started focusing on Popeye because he spoke funny. You know, pretty much like the cartoon, only try to verbalize that written wise. He caught on really hard and took off. In fact, Seeger just had a birthday, I think, yesterday or the day before, and that was circulating through Facebook. That's why everybody was talking about working on strips today. See, after Thimble Theater sprung up a ton of adventure strips, the most popular of which probably right off the bat was Prince Valiant by Harold Foster. And those were tremendously huge full page pieces of art that you found in your paper every Sunday, a continuing story about a young prince getting involved with Camelot and early not Victorian, but the times of King Arthur and the Round Table and
Middle Ages.
There we are. Started around the late 30s. Hal Foster was known for his incredibly delicate artwork. He used to spend an entire week on a page, incredibly well researched, and just great adventure strips. There's an example of a Prince Valiant page. I have to look around the book in order to see it. Again, this fabulous. Is they're just amazing. This is a collection from I want to say Fantagraphics, but I might be wrong. I know Fantagraphics did a run of them. This current volume set is available, I think, in Amazon still. Published by it's Fantagraphics again. And just Hal Foster's work is just amazing.
It's a little like Wally Wood, isn't it? You can see where Wood has got sort of his style from.
Yeah.
Similar style.
Wood aped this, or Wood worked on this strip for a while.
Yeah.
I think he was given a month's worth of strips or something to do while Foster was recovering. But there are some Wood strips of Prince Valiant out there. Just like Flash Gordon. He was over on Flash Gordon for a bit as well. But I don't think the coloring on this does a lot of justice to it, but they probably tried to go back to the original color plates.
Look at that drawing there. That is Even leaning on the top one with it in the bed, where he's leaning on the back of the bed. It's fantastic, isn't it?
And again, we could go through this like on a comics by night. We could go through this book alone.
Definitely.
There, and he traveled the world. Here's a great shot of him in Africa or India.
Wow. I didn't know elephants were that tall. Wow.
Running across an incredibly large elephant. Yeah, everything shrunk after a while, I guess.
Yep.
But you had every Sunday, you had a treat
Look at that.
there with Prince Valiant. The art
Beautiful
story
lighting.
brought in people very quickly, and it became a very, very popular strip, was circulated all throughout the world. Another great great strip. Let me reduce me back down here so you don't have to stare at my mug all the time. Another great strip. He said, shuffling all of these large volumes of books. Very esoteric strip by George Harriman. Started up called Crazy Cat. It showed a little bit of Crazy Cat at the start there. A cat, a mouse, and a dog. And the mouse was always trying to get the attention of the cat. The cat, female cat, was a little slow. So in order to get her attention, they would constantly throw bricks at her.
Zip pow.
Zip pow. Harriman was very abstract in a lot of his backgrounds, and his Sunday pages were incredible. His layout sense really started breaking ground, started getting away from that mitered look and
Throwing a brick again.
switching things around. He's throwing bricks all the time. All the time he's throwing bricks. It's not a strip that you would see in your paper today, but there are a few collections of it because he is so groundbreaking. Did a daily strip and a Sunday strip for a long time. There's a picture of a great shot of Harriman there at the desk. And like I said, these guys were treated like superstars back then. And they were in the way the syndicates worked is they usually worked on a 50-50.
Wow. Look at that. Look at that hat.
They usually worked on a 50-50 stretch. And so these guys became incredibly wealthy and incredibly protective of their work.
Good.
You see a lot of these comic strips are still like that to this day. That's why you have we've talked about Calvin and Hobbes here before.
Yeah.
Waterston. Very much protective of the property and more than willing to go against editorial guidelines or at least to argue with them. Sometimes, most of the time, they would lose out to and I don't see my book here. Damn it. I pulled a bunch of books and I'm having to shuffle and reshuffle. Adventure strips really became the rage of the day. And I don't know what I did with that book. Here it is. Nope, that's anyway, Prince Valiant, Popeye. Next up would have been Flash Gordon if I actually had the book handy. A very amazing strip by Hal Foster. Before I should say before Flash Gordon, there was Buck Rogers, and yeah, exactly. The book, his book. I don't have a. Damn it! I thought I was well prepared. I'm sorry, but Buck Rogers was a space adventurer's guy. Got trapped in a cave with a bunch of gas, probably taken from John Carter of Mars from Burroughs.
I heard it was internet gas.
As it could have been internet gas.
That pesky internet gas.
That pesky, yeah. Ends up waking up in the future, and everything is gone to crap. So, and he has to deal with people from Mars and Venus and all sorts of space adventures. And then Alex Raymond's Flash Gordon came out after that. Well, I had an example of him in the on the overlay here. You saw it as we were coming in. Beautiful line work, beautiful brush work. Again, a very artistic strip. He eventually got tired of drawing just space adventures, so he created a jungle strip called Jungle Jim, so that he could go around and draw a lot of foliage and stuff.
And 60-foot high elephants.
60. That was Foster drawing.
Yeah, I know. But did he not have any big elephants in?
I don't know. This was medieval times, so where
Well,
the elephants were taller
Elephants were bigger then,
and the giraffes were deadly.
definitely. Giraffes used to roam the countryside of old England.
Did they?
Yeah,
Are you
yeah,
joking?
all the time,
Oh, yeah.
all the time.
All the time.
Yeah.
You're trying to be serious. Are you being
down
serious?
in Epping Forest, and then
Down in
Forest.
Epping Forest,
And the
Somewhere in
used to
the
be, there used to be very large giraffes
Yeah.
roaming around, and often criminals would herd them together so that they could mount them and make raids on
now I know you're
traveling
joking.
caravans.
Now I know you're joking. Then of course comes Tarzan. Off of Edgar Rice Burroughs' novels, Tarzan became a very, very popular comic strip for many, many years. Originally drawn by Hal Foster.
That looks like John Severin, doesn't it?
Hmm.
That's actually Ed Marsh, I believe.
I'm
He-
sure
he
it is.
drew Tarzan
It looks
for
like
quite a while.
it looks like John Severin.
Hal
that
Foster
face.
started the strip and then turned it over to Bern Hogarth,
Wow.
Look at that.
who
Oh,
drew it
there's
for
a-
many,
there's
many
a-
years.
There's a bit of Steranko in there, isn't Steranko? Was looking at
Yeah.
that without a doubt.
All of these guys influenced.
Yeah,
That face looks like
guys coming in later.
Submariner, doesn't it? Of
a
Bill
little
Everett.
bit,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm just thinking of the way that look at the way the outstretched paw of the lion is straight, which is
Yeah.
quite unnatural, but
Yeah.
it creates a great line.
It's got human arms, hasn't it?
Yeah, yeah. That's
The lion,
bonkers.
With an
lion's
elbow.
kind of buff.
With an elbow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That lion is buff. Yeah. Well, with Foster, Tarzan became really popular. When Hogarth came on, it took off even harder, and Foster went off and did Prince Valiant, while Hogarth drew Tarzan for many, many years. Hogarth also was one of the first people to kick out a collection like a graphic novel of Tarzan of the Apes. There were two books done, Tarzan and Tarzan of the Apes. Just look at that foliage and those
Yeah.
apes there, just incredible stuff. And that
Looks
was
like
set up.
Looks like a pretty boy there, doesn't he, Tarzan?
That was set up very much like the comic strip. And again, I'm having to look at this stuff first. He did a lot of strategically placed nudity in this book. This is right off of the novel itself that he adapted.
Wow.
And that's his first
Did
kill.
that ape have 3 legs? What's going on there?
Yeah.
Where?
Go up.
Yeah, the guy go that one there. He's got 4 legs.
There's 3 legs. 4 legged.
3-legged ape.
Yeah. 3-legged
Oh,
ape.
I think
legs,
it's
He got
arms.
3 arms too. Look at
It's
that.
a mutant ape.
I
Look
think
at
that's
Tarzan.
showing. I think that's showing the fight motion of the
Oh, right.
of the ape.
Instead of
itself.
speed lines, connecting the arms, it's just 2 arms.
Yeah.
Just look at that.
Right.
Wow.
Sit there and stare at that all day.
Yeah, like Tarzan is in the buff there.
He is. This is before he decided to start covering himself with a loincloth. So much easier to describe that in the novel than it is to show it in the comic. Even when Joe Kubert went through and drew it, adaptation of that book later, he did a lot of strategically placed nudity, a lot of shadow work. Here we go again.
Yeah.
And again, just great form, just
It's
beautiful
fabulous,
foliage.
isn't it?
You can
That's,
sit there and stare at this book for days, which I've done.
That's
in the past.
that's almost a picture book, isn't it? Rather than sequential art.
Yeah, it is, but
Oh,
in
no,
a lot
it's
of ways, it's set
it's
up
loose.
like Prince Valiant,
Yeah.
with the block
Yeah.
of text and illustration. That's how the early Tarzans were set up as well. And then in later years, of course, you got the strip was handed off to a couple of other people before it ended up in the hands of. Here he is shuffling again. Oh, I'm one of these days I will be coordinated. I swear I will. Russ Manning ended up with Tarzan, and he became the look of Tarzan and the strip, dailies and Sundays. Russ ended up taking on a lot of apprentices at that point, and started the careers of many famous illustrators.
Oh.
William Stout, Steve Rude. There were just a group of folks that worked with him at the time, and his strip became famous worldwide at this point, and he really ended up taking on the look and the feel of Tarzan. And a lot of this stuff has been collected here and there. He was on the strip for the comic strip itself for about 6 years, I believe. And then he did a ton of work for Gold Key Comics, and did a lot of European adaptions of all the Tarzan novels. Dark Horse has since gone through and reprinted a lot of that material. Just beautiful, clean look, and just you can see the love. I mean, you can't help but see how great some of these strips are.
Fabulous.
That to me was comics. You know,
Yeah.
DC put a couple of Tarzan digests together off of the Russ Manning material. That's how I ended up running across it originally, where he's got a little Ant-Man, small size warrior creature that was traveling with him through a bunch of his adventures. Tarzan and the Ant-Men. Let me see if I can find a picture of him. He looks like he looks like an old style strong man from the circus. Got that mustache, handlebar mustache working.
Yeah.
Oh, we're close here. Where is it? Just some amazing work here. It's that's a page you can't pass up. And again, IDW has gone through and reprinted the majority of the Sunday page, or all of the Manning Sunday pages of Tarzan. Just beautiful, and they're in really thick collected volumes. Well worth your time. I believe they're still available.
I love the way
right
old Tarzan used to seamlessly drift into fantasy.
At a drop of a hat.
Yeah, I love that. I just it made it that much more entertaining.
It's got Tarzan's son Korak in it. It's got like
Korak.
Korak, Korak. He's in the books, only a lot younger. There's an example of the Ant-Man character. Where is it? Adjusting it for the camera. Here we are, right there.
That's lovely, isn't it?
It's clean.
Oh yeah,
Very
super clean. Russ would go on, like I said, to do Tarzan for many years for DC. Did Brothers of the Spear, which was another jungle adventure, and Magnus, the robot fighter, which is a futuristic tale about a guy fighting robots. Obviously, only he did it with an open hand. He was one of the few superheroes that didn't use a clenched fist in order to hit things. He was
always a judo chop.
It's always chopping it, yeah, and he was incredibly good at it. So it's chopping away. Comics were a lot more. They were just solid entertainment. You even had Disney get involved into this back into the 20s or so. They started doing Mickey Mouse comics or cartoons, comic strips, with my favorite Mickey, who has the little pie eye there. And a lot of those strips weren't humor strips. They turned into a really big adventure strips where he started traveling the country with Doopy. Originally, it turned into Goofy and Horace the horse. Or I should blow that up, sorry. Fred, and I can never pronounce his name correct, Fred Gottfredson was the main artist for that. Just a beautiful style to his stuff. Incredible look. Very pie-eyed, dot for eyes.
I love the way Disney's got his name all over it.
All over.
It reminds me of somebody else.
Yep, sure does. He's not the only one. So, some of the strips were humor. Some of the adventures were humor strips, but a lot of the adventures, this is where Peg Leg Pete comes from. And here's a boxing sequence that he did. Peg Leg Pete is the villain.
Peg Leg Pete.
They used to call him Peg Leg Pete because he had a peg leg.
Yeah, I don't think they'd get away with that today, would they?
Oh, no, they don't. They just call him Pete now. And he's the big grouchy guy, that is on Goofy and on the Goofy cartoons. And here he is, fending off a lion. Mickey Mouse, that is. Is that right? No, it was the other side. Right? Sorry.
Yeah.
And is again,
is that the Mickey that's going to be out of
Copyright.
Yeah,
Yes, it is.
copyright soon. Right, okay.
These and Fantagraphics, like I said, went through and reprinted all of the original Gutfredson books. They're in 2-book slip cases available through Amazon. And believe me when I tell you, very much worth the price. The first 3 are Gutfredson, and then they once they change the eyes, I think that the whole taste of the strip just changes, becomes a lot more of a humor strip, loses a lot of its high adventure stuff. But
So
you know,
we
in
could
the
do an adventure book of the original Mickey
oh yeah,
and publish it.
well, there's the Blot. That was one of the villains. Pete's in it a lot. Peg Leg Pete, Horace, the horse, Clarence the cow, or Clarice the cow, is in it. Goofy starts out being called, I think, Doopy, Doopy, and then they change it to Goofy. Donald's in it with a flat bill, slightly in it. But from if Gutfredson hadn't done the adventure strip for Mickey back in the 20s and 30s, I don't think Carl Barks would have come in and taken Donald and done the duck books like he did,
Right.
with a lot of really just super high adventures, taking him all over the world, doing crazy things. And it's an incredible evolution between those two very high points, I think, in comics in general. But both of them became masters of the art form. And speaking of that, all sorts of different animals were out there. Of course, we've got animals doing politics as well, because there's Pogo that ran for many years by Walt Kelly. If you've never seen Pogo, it's well worth your time. A lot of fun. These are also hardback books. I think Fantagraphics kicks those out. I could be wrong. Looking, and a lot of the Pogos have to be annotated. Yeah, that's Fantagraphics. A lot of these are in slip covers as well. And if you see a little bit of Jeff Smith from Bone in that's his main influence, is Walt Kelly. Jay Foskett, who does a lot of covers with the cartoonier characters, is very influenced by Walt Kelly. And you have a guy here again at the top of his form doing like we were talking before, very simplistic animals, but very beautiful and detailed line work and backgrounds. Fantastic nature. The story is about a possum and his other swamp friends in the Okefenokee swamp, as they end up addressing a lot of the politics of the day in a very satirical way. Some of it is incredibly cute.
Just marvelous brushwork.
Look at that dog, just phenomenal. Yeah. And Kelly did a lot of comic book work as well before he landed on Pogo. Getting a syndicated comic strip was the high point, was the highest achievement that a cartoonist could ever hope for.
Well,
Because
even
once you
when
got
I
that,
started, that was what I was looking for.
Yeah.
I think all of us
Yeah.
at I hate to say in the day, but all of us were looking to do a comic strip, because that's where the money was. That's where you get in a couple of hundred strips, you've got a living.
I remember being involved with a journalist writer in around 1989 or so, and he wanted to do a Guinness Book of Records. So he wanted each day to have different things in it.
Mm-hmm.
And we got all the way through some submission processes in the main papers, but it didn't get taken on. But that kind of thing, if you can get something into the papers and they were being syndicated, it can make you a fortune at the time.
That's what Kirby did in the late 50s with Sky Masters, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Kirby tried a lot of things and then settled on comics. Yeah,
it's not the same now.
Sky Masters.
No.
Yeah,
you couldn't make the same money now. Even a little bit of money. It's not easy.
That's because the cost of the strips has dropped tremendously, and as well as the newspaper outlets, possibility for syndication has dropped as well. I knew Andrew Peepoy was doing Little Orphan Annie in a modern setting many years back. He told me that if he got to 150 strips, it was enough to be a living. But there's a lot of these strip artists out now. That's why you see Jim Davis do 2 or 3 different comic strips, even though he does Garfield, and Garfield's one of the biggest, if not the biggest, comic strip out there right now, especially since Schultz has passed. They still reprint classic Peanuts strips, but Garfield is probably the biggest and longest running old strip. Well, except for these legacy strips that King Feature has, like Blondie and Dagwood and the like. But a single creator on a strip anymore is a miracle. And a lot of these guys end up doing it only for a few years, and then they get tired of the editorial hassles and the BS that they have to deal with, and they stop. Waterston, Calvin and Hobbes, Burke Breathed has stopped and started Bloom County and Opus for many years. The guy who does Boondocks doesn't do the regular strip anymore. They just get tired of that grind. Plus, it's a lot of work because you have to do 6 4-panel strips a day or a week, plus a Sunday strip.
Mm-hmm.
So, and any more, you have to do them in color. So you have to send color keys and, indications. A lot of these guys, I wouldn't say a lot of these creators, I should say it's not just guys. A lot of creators who have their own strips end up making their own little industry and having 3 or 4 apprentices working with them in order to keep up with the workload, let alone the merchandising opportunities that follow. Kathy Guyswhite is another big example of somebody who did a strip for many, many, many years and then just decided it wasn't worth the hassle anymore.
What was the guy called who did the Phantom for?
Lee Falk.
That's the one, yeah. He did that,
the one.
He did that forever, didn't he?
He did it for, many decades. I still regret. I was at a New York con that he was at. He was right behind me too. I was back to back to him. All I had to do was turn around and tell him, I've been reading your strip for decades and I absolutely love what you do, and never did. This is the Phantom here. Everybody knows the Phantom.
Yeah.
He is one of the big worldwide icons. Created in America, but big over in Australia, big in European countries, and Indonesia in the newspaper strips. Still a large industry today. Terry Beatty did the Phantom for a number of years and did the artwork on the Phantom for a long time.
Yeah.
The Syndicate keeps a really hard line on the character now, what he can and cannot do. Even though he carries 2 guns, he can't shoot people and that kind of thing.
He's got a Punisher belt on, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's got a big belt. But they didn't show the entire body because he's got black and yellow black and yellow striped undies on.
They're still doing Phantom strips.
Yes, they are. Phantom's still very big.
Yeah.
Everywhere but in the States. He's, from what I understand, he's incredible over it.
Yeah.
And they still do a lot of original Phantom work all over the world. Just a big character, and he's got a big legacy anyway. The Phantom's a whole family of adventurers that keep Skull Island, I believe it is, protected. Yeah.
Not the one from King Kong, a different Skull Island.
The different Skull Island. Yeah, there's Skull Islands all over the place.
Well,
but also a tremendously big strip.
When we all meet up, I'll give you all one of those. Can you see it?
A Skull Island. Oh, a ring. Oh yeah, cool, sweet. I love it.
I've got 15 million of them.
You're not hearing anyone says that movie was pretty entertaining.
It was, it was.
I
good for the
enjoyed
time.
it. Yeah.
They really need to redo it. It's just that these comic strips are so falling into obscurity, and a lot of the strips now have culturally inappropriate characters or side characters or whatever. So a lot of these companies don't take the time to try to reprint it and keep everything in context in order to show off the great stuff that they did. Another strip that Lee Falk was originated and was known for was Mandrake the Magician. And he had an African servant, pretty much, that followed him around. They ended up turning him into a regular character later on when they used him in the Defenders of Earth cartoon.
Mm-hmm.
Look at those folds on the bottom of that leg.
Yeah. But Mandrake also very popular strip for many years. Started a whole run of magician and magical characters in the in comics and comic books. There wouldn't be a Zatara, then there wouldn't be a Zatanna if it wasn't for Mandrake. Most of the mystical magical characters all sprung from the attention that Mandrake
is that Brian K. Morris in the background there?
Where?
With the fez.
With the fez.
Cool.
No.
And the
cool.
and the black guy with the gun looks like Gabe from Shield.
Yeah. Yeah, he tried. The Mandrake traveled the world though and had all sorts of crazy adventures.
That's fantastic, isn't it?
Just like all these other adventure strips. There's another example of very early Mickey Mouse.
Look at that.
That's from the strip collection. It's a cover for the first series.
25 cents.
25 cents. That was a hardbound book too.
Yeah.
Incredibly well.
That was a lot of
bound.
money back then.
That was one of the Tarzan book I was telling you about. They collected the Russ Manning strips. This is a digest size comic.
Kubert, yeah.
That they did. That's got a Kubert cover. That back when DC had the rights for Tarzan. They took a lot of the Russ Manning strips and put it together into a digest. 50 cents.
Is that one of your is that one of your holes there, Russ? You do that kind of stuff, don't you? With your judo thing.
I don't do judo. Judo chop.
All right, martial arts then.
Martial arts. Judo's a sport.
Right, okay.
Tarzan was always known for breaking the back or breaking the shoulders of it.
I think they did it. I think Tarzan would always be involved in some kind of clinch.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised
or stabbing.
How ridiculously ineffective what you're showing there is actually.
Yeah, probably. He's wrestling an ape.
You're just going to pull your arms out. It's fine.
Another great Pogo illustration from Walt Kelly.
There's actually a really good Swamp Thing issue. I can't remember the issue number. It was during the Alan Moore run.
Yeah.
Where they have these little aliens come into the swamp. The Swamp Thing lives, and they're based on the Pogo characters.
Yes, they are.
The entire thing is silent. There's no dialogue, and it was a great issue. Very sad ending, but a great issue.
A lot of that Moore stuff is very touchstone,
quite morose. Some of it.
Yeah. Then the Toddleben Beset artwork at the time was just very cutting edge. Again, stuff that DC doesn't bother to keep in print anymore.
Is that the old? Is that the original run you're talking about there, Mitch?
For Swamp Thing?
Not the Lean Wrightson run when they brought it back and Alan Moore was over it.
Yeah.
So they brought it back and Alan Moore. It's just I don't. I'm going to have to go back through 13 volumes now to find that.
Actually, it's actually one of the early volumes. I have it on the shelf. Let me go get it real quick.
They called it the reprint volume I've got is Saga of the Swamp Things, what they ended up calling it. And it's the Wrightson, or not Wrightson, but it's the more Toddleben Beset run.
Yeah, I've got
all in one volume. And there was a lot of
there was a Veitch.
There was a lot of kerfluffle over here for a while that there were English reprints of that material that were raging. And we didn't have anything here in the States that collected that material for a long time. And when they did kick out a collection, I ended up buying one, and it's on horrible newsprint. Just really badly done. Like they did an Atomic Knights reprinting too that was on newsprint, and it was such bad quality newsprint that the ink soaked through the other side of the page.
My spine's starting to crack there. Yeah. So you can see.
Got to be careful.
It's not on newsprint.
Blowing it up.
Really, really nicely printed.
Yeah. Yeah, it's on
black and
probably a high quality newsprint there.
Very.
Yeah. Yep. So that's probably the English printing of that. Yeah.
Yeah. I got 13 volumes, I think.
13 volumes.
13. Yeah.
Okay. Craziness.
Absolutely amazing reading that. There's
the first page. You see they're very.
I remember that. Yeah. Great.
There's one where they take their suits off, and it's actually the Pogo characters.
Yeah. Of course, they couldn't name them by name or for fear of being sued. So.
The Saga of the Swamp Thing.
Saga of the Swamp Thing.
Yeah, there's I forgot the alligator's name.
Albert.
Yeah.
Albert the alligator. Yeah.
Yeah, being reflected in the eyes of an actual crocodile.
Yeah.
Doesn't end well.
No.
For him.
But again, a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah.
Great stuff. Single issue story, just long enough to pay homage to. They're in the swamp, so how can you not do Pogo?
Yeah,
that's the way that works.
Yeah, I forgot who the artist.
Anybody who knows Pogo, that's where the expression Kelly originated. Was we have met the enemy and he is us. came from.
Yeah.
Kelly did a lot of other books, adaptions of Pogo over the years, made a lot of political statements. He ended up influencing a lot of voters at that point. Almost as many as Twitter. But anyway. You want to talk Hal Foster? Just beautiful stuff. I don't have a.
Sean McManus is the guy that drew this issue.
Yeah.
Sorry, can I see the cover of that one, Mitch?
Of the trade?
Yeah.
Blowing you up, Mitch. Hang on just a second.
Swamp Thing, Love and Death.
Yeah,
Love
it
and Death.
is.
More?
That's a later volume.
Yeah, so I'm thinking that's a later one.
Yeah, it's it's the second volume after Moore took over.
Right, okay.
It's
Does that have the annual one in it where they go to hell?
no, it actually ends close to where they do though.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to look for that.
It's great stuff.
I found a totally unbelievable panel of Hal Foster here drawing Prince Valiant. This is how beautiful that artwork was back. And again, we're talking 40s, probably 30, 40s. I think Hal Foster did the strip until the 60s, and then his apprentice took over for many years, and now Tom Yates and Mark Schultz, if I'm not mistaken, are still doing the strip to this day. But take a look at this. You want to talk about just amazing artwork. Here's a panel.
Wow.
Just amazing stuff.
Again, it's like the other day when Steranko did that thing. It reminds me of that Hakasai guy, that Japanese artist with that big wave.
Very much so, yeah.
But it's beautiful. Look at those goals as well. It's just incredible, isn't it?
It is.
And it's right at the top of the crest, isn't it? It's just about to fall. It's the most important part to get through, isn't it? To survive. It's wonderful.
You knew how to place a scene.
Yeah. I mean, it just says everything, doesn't it? You don't need anything there. It just tells you.
No, it says it all. I'm not ignoring the chat on purpose. You're there. I love that you're there. Allison's in. Says hello. Marv is in the house. Everybody says hello. Says I only will be here for a bit. Late lunch today. Thanks, Marv, for listening in. Appreciate you. It's John Buscema's birthday. Yes, it is. Almost did Sunday Funnies on that. But we were already in line to do the comic strip stuff. Last time I heard about don't go to the forest or don't get out of the road was when two Americans made a trip to the UK and never came back home.
Yeah, well, they strayed from the path.
That's it. You got to stay on the path.
In the moonlight.
Remember, if you stray off of the path and they catch a butterfly in your in the mud on your boot, you get to be shot. So
what?
It's a Ray Bradbury reference.
Sound of thunder. Sound of thunder.
The world dominated by communism.
Oof. Anyway, like late 20s, Allison says Popeye came in as a one-off character, then came back and basically took over. Yeah. He was
that happens popular. A lot in media.
Well, you go where the popularity flows, and back then they would get letters in. They'd have letters come into the syndicate about what they liked or didn't like out of the strip, and that's the way that everything, that's the way everything evolved. So I think 1929 he came onto the page. Yeah, I think you're right. 29,
almost 100 years.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, the Thimble theaters are in. Some of those are starting to hit public domain now. I know that for a fact. Let's see. This is E.C. Seeger, doesn't say, though of course the volume is entitled I Am What I Am. Popeye was an accident. Credited by E.C. Seeger for his classic Thimble theater as a one-shot supporting character to assist Castor Oil, the actual protagonist of the strip up to that point. The bellicose what is that? Butt-headed, butt-ender-hearted, word-tangling, one-eyed sailor almost immediately used his hyperbolic or hypertrophy, that's its forearms, to elbow his way into center stage. Yeah. And that, again, this is a big book. It's a great book. And if you like old strips, you'll love this. Old Popeye, old Thimble Theater. Uh, I think his opening, he's walking off the dock and somebody walks up to him and asks him if he's a sailor. And he looks at him and says, "You think I'm dressed like a cowboy?" And just great. Again, great stuff. I've shown a couple of panels from Seeger's Popeye in the past, but I think Fantagraphics did a string of these, 5 or 6 of them in a row, continuing the strip. And again, well worth your time over on, over on Amazon.
Yeah, Fantagraphics is great about keeping old comic strips in print.
Gary Groth, who runs Fantagraphics, has got an eye not just for history but for talent in general. Peter Baggy and Bill Griffith have all been printed under him. There's been a bunch of he did the Complete Crumb collection.
Yeah,
he's really good when it comes to that kind of thing and those kind of collections. He's got an eye for great volumes.
He's done some Peanuts collections.
Yes, he has, and I've got a couple of volumes of those back here too. I just didn't bring them forward, but nothing like seeing Charlie Brown with the oval head.
Yeah, the clean line work instead of the squiggly that he's known for.
Just beautiful stuff, and incredibly inventive. They're like Calvin and Hobbes too. The majority of that strip is evergreen. You can still sit there and laugh and enjoy the strip to this day. And the Mickey Mouses are like that too, only they're dated for the 20s and 30s with the clothes and stuff, but the adventure quality in them are just, I feel the same way about Barks as well. You can't go wrong picking up a Barks duck book or a Don Rosa duck adventure. It's just amazing lighthearted stuff.
Well, the Carl Barks stuff inspired a very well-known cartoon for my childhood.
Oh yeah,
DuckTales.
Yep, and they took a lot of that Barks material and turned them into adventures there too. Marv says, unfortunately, it's one of the great list of lost cartoons that kids will never see on TV, which is what Popeye. If you go over on YouTube, there's plenty of collections. I'm amazed at how much of the Looney Tunes material is available over there, including the stuff you're not supposed to see anymore. So, Hal Foster. Every time I read a new collection, I said to myself, that must be the best page he ever drawn. He then upstaged it in his next folio all the time. Yep. Just an amazing work. I got more into Alex Raymond, though. Alex Raymond, you can't match the ink work on Alex. His storytelling leaves a little bit to be desired here and there because it was just one constant adventure to death trap to death trap to death trap. Really didn't tell set stories with Flash, Dale, and Zarkov. Just kept having them do all sorts of crazy things. If you see the Flash Gordon movie, that's a pretty close to an idea of how the Flash Gordon adventure strip used to run, only over many, many years. And he went everywhere on Mongo, and then once he got off of Mongo, he started flying all over the different planets and that. But Raymond ended up giving up the strip after a while. King Features kept it going with a number of other great creators. In fact, there was when I was doing the Flint Comics paper, there was a great run. Jim O'Keefe, if I'm not mistaken, was drawing that, and every week you never knew he'd have somebody come in and draw a strip for a week. So I'm sitting there looking at the stuff I get to print for the Flint Comics, and boom, here's a Sunday page by John Romita. Here's a Sunday page by Gil Kane. Here's a Sunday page by Al Williamson. Here's a Sunday page by Wally Wood. It's like, oh, this is amazing stuff. That was just good time. But you get there's entire years of Sid Barry and Lou Fine worked on that strip for many years. Lou Fine did Captain Marvel Jr. for quite a while. Just beautiful, delicate art, pure art, just artwork all around. You can't miss with a Flash Gordon. Buck Rogers, I think, starts out rustic, looks a little rustic all the way through the classic Buck Rogers stuff. But the imagination level on that strip is incredible. Just
it's amazing to think that Kirby was influenced by Hal Foster and Alex Raymond, isn't it?
All of these guys,
he saw that's what his staple was when he was a kid.
Yeah. You look at Alex Raymond's ink work and you see Murphy Anderson all over it. It's
Yeah.
just obvious. That's where Murphy sat there for years as a kid studying that beautiful brushwork that
Yeah.
Raymond has. Just unbelievable. And then Williamson comes in after that. Al Williamson comes in and
Yeah.
works that strip for years, as well as Lou Fine, as well as Sid Barry. It's
Yeah.
just some beautiful,
All-
beautiful art.
All those three last you just mentioned there, very underrated in my opinion,
Yeah.
especially Al Williamson.
And then Foster
Fabulous
leaves.
artist.
Foster leaves to do Secret Agent. No, is it Secret Agent X9? I think it was Secret Agent Corrigan,
Mhm.
and which is a very urbane noir detective strip. Secret Agent strip does just amazing work, and Williamson comes in on that, and they end up doing Secret Agent X9 as well, and a bunch of other. Williamson comes in and does, that what Williamson does is realistic strip. And I think he had a lot of influence on a lot of the European strips that came in right about that same time or shortly after. Bellamy's Garth looks a lot like that. There's just a feel to it, almost a Williamson look. And yeah, especially Modesty Blaze has a lot of that, of that feel to it. And anybody out there, if you ever get a chance, definitely pick up a collection of Modesty Blaze. They are available out there. You just have to look for them. You want to talk about a female-led action strip. This is a property that doesn't get enough love, doesn't get enough attention. And the whole strip, I found really fascinating, the relationship between her and her assistant, which is very platonic. And they know each other like the back of their hand. And they end up going off on adventures and setting up deals. And they are so experienced by the time the strip starts that they just mow over everybody. And I love strips like that where you've got a hero or your main characters are literally running over the villain. And the villain thinks he's getting away with stuff. And they're like, hey, remember that move we did back in Bangkok? Let's pull that same thing again and screw this guy over. And that's what they end up doing. It's just great stuff.
Can I just say that I'm not trying to plug anything here. This is just for the viewers' interest. In Comics Unlimited number 10, there's an interview with Romero that I did talking about his creation. He's creating that strip, and I told you the story about where he draws beautiful women, and when the female villain was a woman, the editors would want him to draw the women ugly, and he couldn't do it, and he had to get staff artists to make the women ugly, because he just refused to draw ugly women, and it's a good interview if you're in Comics Unlimited number 10.
Can't draw ugly women.
You can't draw ugly women, and I refuse to draw ugly women.
It's a moral sin.
Yeah.
All
women are beautiful, he said, and especially the villains in my strips. And the editors used to change it all.
Oh yeah, and some guy named Frank Frazetta worked on Buck Rogers. He did a lot of the cover work. Yeah, he did a lot of the cover work for the strip collections in comics later. Trying to think of what the name of that Famous Funnies. That's what it was called. He did a whole string of Buck Rogers covers for that are very iconic. You still see them running around to this day out there. Remember me, why I hate you in a good way, Randy. Oh, okay. I want to say Com 13 Mark.
Call me Mark.
Well, Com 13 Mark. Anyway.
Yep.
Sweet. Crime does not pay. I spy there in the background. Love that Gleason Burl stuff. Yes, me too. And again, we were covering that an episode or so ago. Dark Horse has got a Crime Does Not Pay volume out for the ones who want to read that book that can't physically, that can't afford the original Burroughs volumes or the floppies, comics.
Single issues.
There we are. Would love to see Tarzan and Indiana Jones together. Yep. Me too. Now, unfortunately, though, those pulp heroes are being so neglected and so dismissed that you'll be lucky if you ever see another Tarzan movie. I know that they were talking about it, but the last one had Margot Robbie as Jane, and it was actually pretty good, but didn't do anything in the box office. which is probably why you're not seeing a Shadow movie out there like it should be, or a Doc Savage movie like there should be, or a Spider movie. The Spider would be phenomenal on film, just amazing. But you're not. That those old pulp heroes are being, well, look at what John Carter did, and John Carter was literally the first space adventurer, and Disney couldn't market that movie to save their life.
It wasn't they couldn't. They didn't market it.
Yeah.
They just didn't. It was a great film. I really enjoyed it.
It was an incredibly solid movie. Yeah, a lot of fun.
Yeah, Disney has this thing where, sometimes they get into this idea that no.
I think they had a whole string of movies back during that period that were top notch that they didn't market at all.
Well, they get into this habit of thinking that, we're Disney, we don't need to market. People will just go see the movie.
Could be.
And then when they don't, it's like, well, why didn't that sell?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's never make anything like that again.
Exactly. Yeah. Even though it was a solid film. Yeah.
Even though it was a solid film, yeah.
Well, you look at that and Sorcerer's Apprentice with Nick Cage and Tomorrowland with Clooney, and all solid films that they couldn't market to save their life. Just horrible. And if you're hearing any activity upstairs, I've got kids walking around up there. The grandkids are over, and we're having our Christmas this weekend. So.
Pesky kids.
I actually got a DVD collection of Frankenstein Jr. and the Impossibles. Yes. They're like, that's a silly looking cartoon. I says, yes, but it's a great cartoon. Thank you so much. I got a collection of Thundar the Barbarian as well.
So you'll be left watching that while the kids go and play outside.
Yeah, I'm sneaking upstairs with the DVD player. The whole family's getting back together again today in order to watch the referees make the Lions lose American football. And it happens, at every Thanksgiving, we all get together on Thanksgiving Day to watch the Lions lose. It's just tradition. So there's a Lions game on today, so they're going to all get together and we'll be all stomping around upstairs watching American football. So anyway, that's not comic.
Look at Glenn's face.
Yeah.
American football.
Well, I'm trying to be nice here. So instead of just calling it football, because it's not football to Glenn and Russ.
I want to go to an American football game just to experience it.
Have you ever been
have
to
to
Vegas?
Be there all day.
Have you ever been to Vegas? Las Vegas?
Have I been to Vegas? Yeah.
Yeah. Same thing.
Right.
If you've ever been to a pub or a bar where everyone's drunk and just completely rowdy, that's an American football game.
That's
no, but you have to take that and times it by about 20,000.
Yeah.
If you get the right game, you go to a Rose Bowl or one of the Super Bowls, it's just insanity.
The best thing about Vegas
got to be really close to a hardcore World Cup match.
The best thing I found in Vegas after a couple of visits was the helicopter ride into the Grand Canyon.
Yeah.
Which is nowhere near Vegas, but that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I went to Vegas to get a helicopter to go to the Grand Canyon.
Well, you got to do Vegas at least once just to see the audacity of people that would build big shit, It's like, here is and every, you walk down the new strip, every complex is an amusement park, and it's like amusement park after amusement park after, all off of different themes. And it's like the ultimate in excess, I guess.
If you come in on the road,
put it nicely,
rather than an aircraft, it's at night. It's like the spaceship in Close Encounters when you come, you come
up over the hill,
and you drop down, and it's just like the spaceship in Close Encounters, which is quite impressive.
You should do it at night just because of the lights. It's amazing. You see the pyramid from the Luxor and the Eiffel Tower from Paris, and it's just insane, just crazy. And then you drive up the strip. It's like, we ended up, it was like 112 degrees when we were there outside. We were traveling from complex to complex, walking. We'd go from nice cool to super hot to nice cool to super hot. Just up and down the strip. You'd spend the day and you'd only cover maybe 6 or 7 of them complexes. And there's a couple dozen on the main strip alone, let alone the old strip. So anyway, that's not comic strips. So Billy Zane was great as the Phantom. The comic is very underrated. Yeah. I think it's better known, and it's much better known in Europe, but much better known pretty much everywhere else, but here in the States, really big in Australia, from what I do understand. Incredibly big. Phantom is great. Yeah. I hate you, Glenn. Marvy.
Join the club.
Very addictive theme song.
Yeah. Get used to it.
I have an idea that Phantom and Mandrake are more popular in Italy. Yeah, probably. But then you see Diabolique is out of there, and you see all of these great Bernelli reprint, or all the Bernelli books, Bertinelli or something. Bendelli? I can't pronounce that name right, and I'm sorry that I can't. But Dylan Dog and Tom Tomorrow. And
I think
Nathan Never, and
I
all
think
of
the
that
difference is
Diabolique comes out of there.
Europe is more open to the more esoteric hero. I think.
Yeah.
I think that's
or
what it comes
anti-hero.
down to. Well, just the fact that there's, and this is not an examination of the audiences. I'm just saying of the stuff that is put out. So like that's why American comics did so well, because they were so brash and bold, and it was all about the gadgets and the big explosion and what have you. And whereas the I don't know, like heroes like the Phantom, they just do well in Europe. There's something sort of more. There's something more of a detail to it. I don't know quite how to express it, but they're not quite as in your face.
The feel or an atmosphere to the character.
Yeah. So it's a bit more. I think this esoteric. I think it's just there's a little bit more, of that about a European hero that they like, and European comic books in general. They're just not quite as bold, if you know what I mean.
They have a different sensibility.
Yes, there's a different sensibility to them, and a hero like the Phantom kind of works Europe in a European sensibility rather than the American one. The Americana one.
Randy and Mitch, is Tintin big in America? I know there was a film, but is it
not very? No.
It's the same thing.
And anybody who's a comic fan or a comic strip fan knows of Tintin. Might have one or two of the volumes, but anymore, that movie really killed it. I think.
Yeah, I've not seen that.
Or Asterix the Ghoul.
Oh yeah.
It's huge.
You hardly see any asterisks over here at all anymore. Same thing with Lucky Luke. There's like nothing over here, and it's really big over in the Netherlands.
What's the artist called?
I'm sorry.
Sorry, go ahead.
Tintin and Asterix are kind of those things that people know, and if they buy it, they usually buy it along with something else. They'll go to the store and buy something. And, here's a Tintin volume. I'll get this also. No one really seems to go out of their way to read Tintin. It's just
there was a big push also to cancel Hergé for his communist leanings here in the States. There was a lot of negative press on that for a while.
I'm sure he'd do really well now.
Could, yeah. Really, they don't bother to bring it back. The Spielberg movie, like I said, really the way that they filmed it like Polar Express.
Yeah.
And it just, too many people find that art style to be too ooky to go and watch it. So even on cable, it didn't catch on very well. So Marvy sent this picture over. Here's a great example of Phantom and Mandrake over from Portugal. Look at that
Phantom cover. Look at it.
Phantasma.
I almost got a go at the Phantom. I was talking to one of the editors on one of the books, and they had a spot, but unfortunately it didn't work out. But I'd have loved to have had a go.
I bet you'd have been really good on it. You'd have had to learn to draw horses, though.
Oh yeah, I've drawn plenty of horses.
Have you? Yeah, cool. I didn't mean that to pick on you.
It's okay. There's plenty of
probably riding a horse with Ghost next to him.
There's loads of photographic reference out there. On the plus side of the internet, because there's not a lot of plus sides.
You know why you didn't get that gig, Russ? You know why you didn't get the gig?
I couldn't draw a horse
because literally it's horses for courses.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I'll be here all week. Try the veal.
Here we are. Oh, we didn't even get to talk about it or show off a lot of the Modesty Blaze stuff, and before we go, I really want to point out one of the best, greatest comic strips of all time. If you've never seen it or never read it, you absolutely have to pick it up, especially if you like true detective stories, or we were talking about Crime Does Not Pay earlier. We can't have an episode of about comic strips without, of course, mentioning Dick Tracy.
Oh,
Right there. This is Flat Top and his Rogues Gallery of Villains.
that flat top looks like Peter Lorre.
Doesn't he? Yeah. Only with of course, a flat top.
Ah,
Yes.
Peter Lorre.
He's Peter Lorre. Yeah. Look at the line work on that. Just great individualism. Just great expression. That's Shaky right there on the phone. Guess how you know who that is. Anyway. Yeah. Just
I wouldn't
great
be
stuff. This volume alone has the brow, measles, snowflake.
Look at the brow.
Snowflake before there was
brow's
snowflake.
great.
Look at the
Yeah.
brow.
He
Just
looks like a
amazing.
walnut whip, Glenn.
Yeah. Yes, he does. Yeah.
Gravel Gertie and Breathless Mahoney, all in this one volume, plus Flat Top and
There's no wonder
Flat
the
top
brow's
and the
angry
brow.
all the time.
Well, flat
Oh,
tops
yeah.
in all
I
of
mean,
them.
obviously, you can see.
look at my furrows of worry.
You can obviously see where you can trail back
Oh,
Batman
dear.
into things like
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
going to say
the
that.
Phantom and the
Started in-
Shadow,
Yep.
Yeah.
but
Started in
also
19
seeing Batman track back into the Villains Gallery, the
Yes.
Rogues Gallery you've got
Yep.
there. I mean, it's obvious that that's where the inspiration has come from.
And Chester Gould started Dick Tracy back in 1936, so he had a
Yeah.
couple of years worth on Batman's creation. And again, that's where the cop started being called a dick. Is Dick Tracy.
We
Comes
got a
comes
few
up
of them
through the
over here.
ranks. Yeah,
Yeah.
comes up through the ranks and just does amazing work out of the gangster era. Is where this was. There's Chester
Yeah.
Gould right there, working on the strip. One of the big superstars in comic strips that had his own individual style, did his own individual work with his IP that he took and ran and made an incredible living and legacy off of. And now Joe Staten's worked on that strip. Max Allan Collins, very famous mystery writer, is writing that strip. I think he's still writing it. Maybe, probably not. Dick Locher, who was a big editorial cartoonist, ended up doing that strip for many, many years. And the Rogues Galleries still continue on. Yeah, there's the Joe Staten cover right there on Dick Tracy.
Yeah.
Just great. Can't go without mentioning that. Shouldn't go without mentioning Garth by Frank,
Oh,
great Frank
Garth,
Bellamy.
yeah.
Here's a collection of Dick Tracy I picked up very early on in my youth. Look at how thick that is. Just phenomenal. That's the illustrated
What did you think of the film with Madonna in it? And
celebrated cases of
Warren
Dick
Beatty?
Tracy. I absolutely hated that film when it first come out. Just like Popeye, didn't like it either. But you sit back and you watch it now.
But
And
The
you
art
watch that-
direction on it was great.
And
the colouring and all that kind of
Yeah.
was brilliant. Yeah, that was the best part.
you look at it from a more adult eye, or once you've read, like I picked up the Popeye book between times as I just watched Popeye, the Robin Williams Popeye a couple years back. Brilliant, unbelievable movie. I'm like, how come I didn't appreciate this when it was first out? And every time I watch Dick Tracy now, you just have to marvel at the palette that they use, because Beatty intentionally went back and tried to make that look like the comic strip as best as he could, and did a phenomenal job with it. The script was as best as they could get, and it's a very watchable film. But the reason it's so entertaining, it's like the Burton Batman movie, is that it completely removes you out of reality and puts you in a whole different reality in order to enjoy it. That Popeye is the same way as well. You're just there's an hour and a half or 2 hours where you're not on this earth. You're in their world, and they very masterfully put you in there and show you a lot of things in order for you to lose yourself.
I said earlier about Shelley Duvall, great performance in there. I think
Yeah.
she's Didn't she make that after The Shining under a
Yeah.
lot of duress, and she was a bit upset about Kubrick, wasn't she, and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Well, a lot of people didn't like Kubrick.
No,
apparently he was really hard to work for.
But they all want to be in one of his films.
Just watched a couple of short videos about Full Metal Jacket. Very interesting. So, and one of the few actors that Kubrick actually let go was just run was the sergeant in Full Metal Jacket, because he would come in with most of his script already done, or he would invent it on the fly, because he was that character for many years in the Marines. So he came in and did what he always did, what he had done 100 times before, and Kubrick got it on film and was smart enough to leave it. You know?
I'll tell you a story about that off air.
Okay.
Only because it wouldn't be good on air.
Well, we're TVMA, but that's all right. It's got nothing to do with comic strips.
Nothing to do with comics.
Yeah, nothing to do with comics.
The only strip stuff I have, I've got a whole bunch of Gary Larson Far Side compilations, which I love.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what I had next to me.
Yeah.
there is a brilliant hardcover 2-volume slipcased set of Far Side out of everything that Larson did up till his recent revival.
Yeah.
And it's just brilliant. Amazing. Yeah.
And it doesn't really count as sequential art though. So
no,
but it is great.
But it is cartooning. Yeah.
But the only sequential stuff I've got is the Judge Dredd stuff.
Yeah.
Which is superb.
I went through and printed just about the majority of that here in the Flint Comics paper, and there were times I printed whole Judge Dredd stories, and in strip form.
I think the only other one to have the same kind of standard, because of it that was it Ron Smith that did all that
looked
stuff?
Like it,
yeah, he's a beautiful artwork.
There was a variety of artists on that strip. All of the 2000 AD guys except Boland, I think, pretty much did
so they all
story
did
at one point.
Fabulous work, but also the Remitter Spider-Man, as well. I mean that the standard of the work that went into, not saying that the standard wasn't great for these other things, but so much of it was obviously quick. They put it together quickly, because it was a daily thing, and to see the intensity of the comic strip, it was at least as good as what they were producing. I mean, for the weekly comic. Mm-hmm. It just impressive stuff, beautiful stuff.
Daily strips. Oh, another gargantuan
look at that.
book.
Great. Look at that.
Look at that. Very much like Dick Sprang work here on Batman. Just
look, there's phenomenal. Bob Kane's name all over the place.
Of course. Just like
it reminds me of somebody else.
It's like Stan and Walt. Yeah. But look at that. Just beautiful work. And on a daily comic strip. Again, this is the Batman dailies. That strip only ran for 4 or 5 years, I think. And then they no, this is from 43 to 46. So there's 3 years worth of strips there. All of the Sundays have been bound in great volumes as well. I've got a whole bookcase dedicated to comic strips because I love them, Just the Russ Manning Tarzans, Winsor McKay's Little Nemo, Hal Foster's Prince Valiant, Alex Raymond's Flash Gordon. I've got a couple of old Flash Gordon volumes here that I thought I had one here to show off, but apparently not. But Nostalgia Press, way back in the 70s, collected those. And unfortunately, a lot of this stuff is very hard to find anymore. And I don't want to leave without pointing out V.T. Hamlin's Alley Oop. Because growing up, that was an adventure strip that my local paper actually carried on a regular basis. It was always the strip at the bottom of the page. V.T. Hamlin's Alley Oop.
Look at that moon. Yeah. Sorry, Randy. Look at that moon. Isn't it fantastic? The creators on that. It's absolutely brilliant.
Again, very individual art style, but very intricate line work. Just amazing stuff. It's a caveman. And for many years, he had caveman type adventures. Just brilliant use of negative space here, showing the jungle. And beautiful women.
Yeah.
Ula is one of the most gorgeous women in comics, I think. Just gorgeous look to his stuff. And then I think the late 40s, early 50s. Allie gets kidnapped by a couple of scientists in a time machine and yanked up to present day. And then they send him on a time machine out to all sorts of different time periods because Hamlin was a big history buff, and he was tired of drawing cavemen all the time. So he put a cigar chomping, angry, kind of the same attitude as the Thing, caveman dude, and sent him all over in time. Every era that you could think of, there's a alley-oop story out there. And he even, I think he gets bumped on the head or something, like ends up in Jack the Beanstalk in fantasy worlds as well eventually. But he's constantly being pulled back and forth in a time machine there for a while.
When was that first published?
The original strip, I think, is 30s. This particular era is 48 and 49. And he's already time traveling at this point. Sometimes he'd send him back to caveman era and they deal with politics or some sort. And then the two scientists would grab him again and pull him up in time and send him off someplace else. Or they figured out how to work him and Ula both would travel through time a lot into different eras. In fact, there's Ula there in a more modern dress with a gun belt. Out in there, they go out to the Old West. They go out into space. They do every type of adventure that anywhere VT wanted to send him. And for many years, he did this strip again, just like Chester Gould. Created his own his own legend, his own IP. Developed it from scratch and just took it and ran with it wherever he wanted to go. He went. So, Milt Caniff also. I can't recommend him enough. Steve Canyon, Terry and the Pirates.
Yeah,
very big influence on a lot of cartoonists over the years as well. Very individual look. The Steve Canyon and Terry and the Pirates books are out by IDW. This is volume 19 that I have. This covers the year 56 and 57. And you want to talk about somebody who knew how to draw, knew how to set up spot as blacks.
Yeah.
And do here. Let me blow that up.
Fabulous.
Frank Robbins, very much in his school. Alex Toth, very much in his school. You see so much influence on so many modern artists, or maybe not modern artists, but a lot of these adventure strip guys that grew up out of this era. Caniff started out doing Terry and the Pirates, which is very much a boys' adventure strip that influenced Tintin, influenced Johnny Quest very heavily. Clutch Cargo, if you know who that is. And then Caniff got a better offer from another syndicate, so he jumped over and created Steve Canyon, which is about an aviator after World War II, making his way in American life, very much like a lot of other Americans were doing. Getting by with a little delivery flight service for a while and traveling the world, meeting the Dragon Lady and all sorts of other crazy adventures. And again, a very underrated, especially nowadays, strip, very overlooked, too overlooked in a lot of ways. A lot of high adventure out there, folks. Like we keep saying, go out there and visit your local retailer, visit your local bookstores, take a look on Amazon. All of these strip collections pretty much a lot of these strip collections are pretty much still in print or just about to go out of print. So if you want to be that kind of entertainment, we're talking $50, I think, for one of the big volumes. Used to be maybe a little more, $50 to $75 for a volume like that thick, covers a couple years worth of these strips. Alley-oops, pretty hard to find. Mickey Mouse, I think, is still in print. The Peanut stuff, I think, is still available on Amazon. Let me check that Tarzan volume. I just got these a couple years ago off of Amazon. Looking for a price. I think it's $55 for a set. Again, very thick. This covers 71 to 74, the daily strip. Probably the middle of 71 to the middle of 74. 3 volumes of Russ Manning like that. Every last one of them are great, great stories, very high adventures. The Prince Valiant volumes, I'm sure, are pretty. I've seen these available on Amazon still at a decent price. This one was $20.
Wow.
$20. I believe I got this at Barnes & Noble.
And are those strips from the 30s?
Yeah, this is 41 to 42 here.
Right.
It's usually 2 years at a time in a book because he was doing the strip weekly. So you get 104 pages of Prince Valiant. That's a lot of story.
It really is a work of art, that stuff, isn't it?
Very much so.
Just
Very
beautiful.
much so. And again, if you get a chance to see an exhibition of comic art out there, there's usually a Hal Foster page. There's usually an Eisner Spirit page. There's usually a Walt Kelly Pogo page. Just, it's well worth your time to go and take a close look at this stuff, because you'll just, if you're an artist or interested in comic art, you'll just stand there in awe on a lot of this stuff. Marvi says, I'm quietly enjoying the conversation and discussion this morning. Good show, gentlemen. Thank you. Levi Cross. Thank you, Levi, very much. Good to see you. Good to see you around. Allison says, I had dinner at the Space Needle place and got to see the lights of the strip come up as it rotated. Yeah, very unforgettable. A lot of lights. That's awesome, Randy. The brow looks like a white wrapper. Yeah, could be. Negative space is a style that I really want to be good at. I simply love it, and I can see that in my work. Absolutely, Marvy. Absolutely. Still struggling about it. Yeah. Efren, hello. Hope you're doing well, buddy. We've just been looking at a lot of comic strips today. Got to show off some of my books here that I just love this stuff. Like I said, I printed a comics paper for many years. Got to print practically all of the James Bond comic strip, which is just like the Modesty Blaze strip. In fact, Holdaway, I think, started out doing James Bond. And those I know are collected and available in paperback. You can get a half a dozen Ian Fleming adaptions over on Amazon for like 20, 25, 30 bucks in strip form. Just great.
If you look at those,
you know where to look. Yeah.
I can't remember the guy's name now. He was a Scottish artist, I think, but on the Bond things. I can't remember his name. But if you look at the early stuff from 1959, pre-film, a couple of years pre-film, his Bond is Sean Connery.
Yeah. It
looks just like Sean Connery before Sean Connery was cast.
And if you read the strip in succession, you can see where the films start as well, because the women suddenly start losing their tops and a lot of the bad guys start popping up. And it just goes a little crazy, especially once they get past the Ian Fleming material. And they adapted, I think, every Ian Fleming book out there and a couple of the short stories besides. So make sure you look around. You want to see some crazy stuff. Look at Crazy Cat. Look at Little Nemo. Look at Pogo. We'll do this again sometime real soon. Go over some more comic strips. We didn't even get close to covering the humor strips like Calvin and Hobbes and Far Side and Peanuts and all of those great Boondocks. Gasoline. Didn't even talk about Gasoline Alley. And that's one of the few remaining family strips like Thimble Theater that are still, last time I knew, it was still around. It's still being done.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's handed down generation to generation to generation. For better, for worse, Broomhilda, there's all sorts of comic strips out there, not just the ones that you see in your papers. And the adventure strip, especially your Dick Tracy, your Prince Valiant, really becoming a lost art. And there's a lot of great, phenomenal art sitting in there. The Alley-Oop's now gone back to his caveman days, and he's taken over by a couple of folks that just do a lighthearted humor strip pretty much of a couple of cavemen running around now, where before he was traveling and having all sorts of adventures all through time. Same thing, just like Mickey Mouse. You lose all that spirit, that hint of adventure and the fun out of these strips that you can still find occasionally in these reprint books, and they need to stay in print. That's my biggest gripe. There we are. Yep, that's one of the collections of the James Bond set there. Which stories are in that volume?
Casino Royale, Goldfinger, Dr. No, and a few others.
Yeah.
And it's got I'll try and find.
And those are faithful to the Ian Fleming's novels too. They're not they're not movie adaptations.
The artist I'm talking about, John McCluskey. Let me just find you his Bond, because you'll see Sean Connery somewhere.
I've got a couple of collections of that. I actually had to buy those collections because when I bought the rights to print the syndicated strip, they left a couple of numbers out on the stories. So I bought the collections and scanned the strips in and printed them, thinking that if they did find out that I printed stuff they didn't send me, I'd say, well, that was part of the story anyway.
That
see
does
it?
look
It does
like
look like Sean Connery.
that does look like Sean Connery.
It does. Yep.
Wow, your lights. Wow,
Yeah,
what's going on?
I don't know what's going on there.
You get
Just
close to that, it starts.
Yeah.
Your
I
monitor
I might-
starts winking.
I may be having a fit. Oh,
Sorry, folks. Anyway,
Can't
There's-
oblige you there.
there's so much more of
There you
this
go.
material to show.
yeah. Look at that.
Very, very much a
Beautiful
young
line
Sean
work as
Connery.
well. Look at it.
Look at that.
Lovely
Great work.
spot, black spotting as well.
Absolutely gorgeous.
Does he have the scar?
Sorry?
James Bond. Does he have the scar that James Bond had in the books?
Yeah, somewhere on there. Can you see? Is it on that one? This
It's-
one here?
It's going in and out.
You're-
So
Something,
the camera-
something
Lighting is
masterful
great.
about
Yeah.
something masterful about the way that black and white artwork is done. Like it's done for the black and white. No, it's so
Yeah.
pure.
Yeah. Do you know the comic Asterisk and Obelisk? Yeah, we talked
Yes,
about them.
fortunately.
We talked about them earlier. Yep. We're archived over on the Indie Comics Network, so make sure you like and subscribe over there if you can. We deeply appreciate everybody watching today. Our numbers are incredibly good for today's show. We deeply appreciate everybody watching. There's so much of this stuff that we love, and so much of this stuff we love to show you. That and it's so worth your time to dig up. There's some really incredibly classic comic strips out there that are just waiting to be discovered, that are as timeless as you can imagine. Sure, you're going to run into some strips, and you don't see them reprinted that much anymore, that use really bad cultural stereotypes that can be easily taken out of context by culturally insensitive people. And that's going to happen because that was the product of the day. And remember, comics started out reinforcing stereotypes and icons like that because that was the easy go-to. You know, you had Chop Chop that ran around in Blackhawks. Blackhawks is a beautifully illustrated strip of a bunch of a large array, a diverse group of flyers who have souped up airplanes that are working off of a separate island base. And because Chop Chop is so stereotypically Asian with buck teeth, yellow skin, running around with an axe in his hand, that they don't dare reprint those stories to this day. And it's a shame because the artwork on those strips were incredibly good, even if the stereotyping of that of the Asian culture was very insensitive. It's still some great reading if you can find them. I think DC did Black Hawk Archives for a couple of years, and then were shamed into stopping. But they tried to do a boxed set of all of the detective comics before Batman 1 through 29 or 1 through 27. They were gonna do a slipcase cover version of them, limited edition hardback for aficionados of that era. Would have been some great reading, but because there's some insensitive Asian stereotypes in that material, they got shamed into pulling the project.
People should grow up, shouldn't they?
Just like they were going to reprint all of the Monster Society of Evil stories from Captain Marvel, Shazam Captain Marvel, which is brilliant work. Ends up the big villain, the big mastermind behind all of it is Mr. Mind, who's a little tomato worm, an alien tomato worm. Brilliant stuff. Won't print it because it's got a couple of African and a couple of Asian stereotypes in it.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Spirit with Ebony White.
Exactly. So lucky to have had those archives come out when they did, just as all of that stuff was started. People, overly sensitive people, were starting to complain and didn't bother to read the material because Ebony's a fantastic character in those books, even if he's drawn culturally inappropriate in today's.
Oh yeah, he's very inappropriate visually, but if you read the stories, he's actually a very smart character.
Very, even if he's talking pretty much ghetto slang of the day. Yeah. Little Abner, you're never going to see him around anymore either because of the Southern hillbilly stereotype that Little Abner is. But a beautifully drawn strip, great political points from a guy who was changing his politics while he was doing the strip. He went from pretty liberal to ultra conservative. I mean, nowadays, there was a long time there that he was looked at as he was a Trumper long before there were Trumpers. I mean, he was that conservative, just crazy in his viewpoint. And then, of course, didn't get a chance to show this off. Maybe we'll take a Comics by Night and show this off. We'll end up spending another 3 or 4 episodes just going through the volumes.
Yeah.
And that is the Star Wars strip written by
Al
Archie
Williamson.
Goodwin
Oh,
and
it's
drawn
definitely-
by Al Williams.
that's a comics by night. That's a comics by night, without doubt.
I love this volume. This set.
Is
It's
it
a
color?
3-volume set.
Oh,
Oh,
No one, well, unfortunately or unfortunately, depending upon your viewpoint, it is very much in black and white.
oh no! I love it. I love that it's in black and
Looks
white.
wonderful.
Beautiful,
The zip
spotted
tone.
blacks. Yeah,
Yeah.
zip-a-tone all throughout. Very, very
Brilliant.
much physically done.
You know,
And-
Grand Moff Tarkin.
Yeah,
you were talking about censorship before.
Uh-huh.
Imagine in 10 years' time when we finally get to know that there are aliens, we're gonna lose all this.
probably. Yeah, yeah. And just to rub it in, like Lynn does when he shows off. Every time he shows off New Gods, #1.
Lovely. Lift it up a bit. Oh yeah. Right, got it.
Right there.
Fantastic. Look
That's
at that.
Archie and L
Oh.
signature, limited edition to 1174. Great volumes. Great
Wonderful.
volumes. Beautiful artwork. Great stories from masters, storytellers. Just and like Russ said, easily a comics by night
Yeah.
thing. And then
17 editions.
the Star Wars strip actually started out being drawn and written by Russ Manning for a little while, and then somebody took it over. I don't remember. I think it was Don Glut and Alfredo Alcala drew it for a year or so, and then Goodwin and Williamson came on it and just kicked ass on it for many years. Just a beautiful
Wow.
work.
Fantastic. Like I said before, Al Williamson, I think, is one of the most underrated artists that's been around.
I spent hours looking at his Flash Gordon adaptation too. I've
Yeah.
got that back here in hardback. Just beautiful, amazing stuff. All right, everybody, that's been Comics by Night. Your Comics by Night. This has been Sunday Funnies. We're in Sunday Funnies. Might as well. It could be Comics by Night. Showing everything off. The 11th of December for 2022. We deeply appreciate you watching again. Everybody's sticking around. Love you in the chat. Thank you so much for being here. I do Zimcast on Wednesday evenings at 10 p.m. when Glenn and Russ are fast asleep, or should be, and where we talk about the comics industry and the politics, and we get a little opinionated on that show. And then we also do on Friday mornings at 5 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we do Comics by Night. We are currently still, Russ, we're still going through that Steranko book. So you only missed about 3 episodes. 3 stories. That's about as far as we got.
You may want to wind
Friday.
that up.
We will have part 3 of looking at that fantastic artisan edition of Steranko's Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. book here this Friday as well. So that's Friday at 5 a.m. So in the meantime, Mitch, tell folks how people can find you.
Well, you can find me down here at Linktree/Celtic Cross Studios. You can find my you can find my website, online store, and socials. Oh yeah, right here.
Right there. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you want a cool, creepy Christmas gift, pick up the Boger Southern Gothic trade, which is available at my website.
Do it fast because Christmas is quickly coming. So.
Oh yeah,
2 weeks.
And you can also find me Tuesdays on Dispatches from Outside the Box here on the Indie Comics Network, hosted by C. Michael Lanning, every Tuesday at 8.
And I'm on there every once in a while, whenever he bothers to invite me. So there's a lot of programming over on the Indie Comics Network, indiecomicsnetwork.com. Go over there and take a look. Everything might not be for you, but there's a lot of great programming there, a lot of fun, and we all love comics. That's the key out of all of this. That's why I love doing this show and shows like this, not necessarily to show off books, but to show off some great, beautiful artwork by true masters in the field that a lot of folks have no idea are existed or are even out there. We all know who Dick Tracy is, but you've never really seen Chester Gould's work until you've picked up one of these volumes and looked at it for a little bit. Very stylized, very individual look, very beautiful artwork. Same thing with Foster's Valiant, Raymond's Flash Gordon, Calkins's Buck Rogers. It's all worth your time to take a look at it. Russ, tell folks how they can find you.
Yeah, you can find me over at russleach.com. You can find me in the pages of Batman every 6 weeks or so in UK and Europe. There's the artwork in there. It's a bit like it's a bit sort of the animated series.
Hang on, gotta blow you up there. There we go. Go ahead.
It's not talking down to kids, but it's very much all ages. It's good fun stuff. There you go.
I like that penguin.
Foul play.
I was quite pleased with the penguin in there. Yeah, it's quite a good one. And
I think that hook knows.
you can see art like this coming up soon. There you go. You can also find me in the pages of Only Death Can Save Us, which you can now pick up for Christmas right away over on Amazon.com. You can actually, Batman is available in the UK and Europe. If you're an aficionado and you want to get everything that is Batman and it's not available in your country, I do believe you can pick up a copy at newsstand.com, so you can get it there as well. And like I say, you can pick everything else up that I've done over at amazon.co.uk or .com. I think we're over in Walmart as well, and Books A Million and those kind of places. So look around for Only Death Can Save Us. You should be able to find a copy. Everything else that I do, everything else you want to find out about me, just go over to russleach.com.
I didn't even think that somebody would have started a newsstand online. That makes sense.
Yeah, yes. I think it's called newsstand.com. Yeah.
Probably is. I'll have to look for that and see if that's there and start running links.
I don't know if you get the free gift or not, because I got a little Batmobile this month. So then maybe there's a little bat figure next month. I don't know. They're really
that explains
cool. Like
where
Christmas.
You've been for the last couple of days. You didn't go to a cold climate. You were running on your floor.
I've been running around on my floor with my Batmobile. Yeah.
Glenn, tell folks how they can find you.
You can get me on the usual places: Facebook, Instagram, all those places. You can get me if you want to say anything to me. You can get me on Comics Unlimited magazine.
Try to be nice. Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah, Comics Unlimited magazine at gmail.com, and you can see me on these podcasts with Randy on Fridays and Sunday. But you can mainly get my books and magazines and stuff on Amazon. Just put my name in there, and I'm sure you'll find them.
Great. Just cleaning out my nose there. Nobody wants to see or hear that. Folks, I'm available over on Facebook, on Twitter under Randy Zim. If you really want to go over there and follow me, you can. I'm hardly ever over there, so I won't bother you if you go over there. You'll find me on the Indie Comics Network, Zimcast, Wednesday nights at 10, Comics by Night, Friday mornings at 5 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And again, here on Sunday Funnies, if you enjoyed this program, drop a comment in the comment section over on YouTube. Send us an email. There'll be an address here at the end. Let us know if you want to see more of this. We can definitely show you more. So, and we can take our time on any Comics by Night. If there's anybody that you want us to look at, if I don't have a book, I can probably get a hold of a book, or Russ has got the book, or Glenn's got a book, or whatever. We'll be more than happy to cover anybody that you want to talk about. We love doing this. We love talking about this art form. This is why we're here. All right, everybody, take care. Any last words? Go visit your retailer and look through his boxes. Buy independent and alternative comics, especially ours. And if you work in this business, try to leave it in better shape than what you found it. As Daphne says, do the work. Then you don't have to make shit up, but make shit up in real time. So do more comics. Anybody else?
Piggybacking off of that, screw AI artwork.
Screw AI artwork.
Yeah.
It's a fad. When way back when comics before comics went digital, first comics did a book called Shatter. Nobody talks about it anymore. Nobody remembers it anymore. It was very pixelated, very much like somebody trying to do an adult, more detailed version of Minecraft, pretty much. Everybody said at that point, oh, digital comics are going to take over the industry. Well, they did, but they didn't do it the way that you expected. A lot of digital tools came out for the artists to use. But even with AI, you're still going to have an artist. You still need to have an artist out there. And eventually you'll see that the fake stuff go away. And
isn't AI just stealing
six-fingered
stuff?
hands? It is very much so.
It isn't actually generating it; it's stealing it.
That's why
it. So
I posted a thread on Facebook the other day that said all of these we need to take all of these AI bots and turn them on to Disney material.
Yeah. See how quick that carries on.
And see how that goes with all of their software and how, because you don't excuse the adult language, folks, even though we are TVMA DLSV, you don't fuck with the mouse. You just
oh
no. Yeah. Everybody.
Oh no, I'm coming in to get you. Oh yeah, I'm taking over. Oh,
reminds me of that South Park episode.
We always knew that's what death sounded like. We always knew that's what death sounded like. You just
take them over, boys. Bring in the baseball bats.
All right, everybody. Thanks again. It's been a joy. And again, thank you so much, everybody, for listening. Thanks, everybody, for contributing. Thanks for the chat. For Zerko just walking in as we're walking out. You're doing regular books now.
AI is doing regular books now. Not the regular books I've seen.
No, you know what? There have been AI books out there, and just nobody said anything about it. I saw a video a month ago, at least, about a guy boasting how he can do a graphic novel in a day.
Yeah.
And yeah.
I also saw what the output was, and it was
but is it any good?
Well, and all that crap usually settles to the bottom where it belongs, and then just drifts away. That's like I was gonna say. Nobody remembers Shatter anymore. Come out from First Comics. Nobody talks about it anymore. It was the first all digital comic book, and nobody says nothing. Art always wins.
Yeah,
it's the way it works. And we love you all. We hope you enjoyed us showing off our art, everybody else's art. There's so much great stuff out there, folks. It's a lot of fun. Don't forget to give comics for the holidays. So as much as you can. Like I said, I got DVDs from the kids this time, because they actually started bothering me. What do you want for Christmas? If you're gonna buy something for me, buy me this. And they sure did. It was great. Okay, I'm gonna go upstairs now and geek out on Thundar the Barbarian for a while. It'll be great.
See ya.
All right, everybody, take care. We're going out with a few bumps and a couple of videos, and then we'll see you next week here on the Sunday Funnies. Love you all. Take care.
Have a question or comment for us to address on the show? Have a topic you want us to talk about? Email us at indiecomicsnetwork@gmail.com. Want your comics to arrive in pristine condition? Head over to GeminiComicSupply.com and save 10% on your next Gemini mailer order or anything in the Gemini Comic Supply store. Use coupon code RAGIN10. That's RAGIN 10.
Now comes the part where we throw our heads back and laugh. Ready?
Ready!
Look, everybody's entitled to be an idiot.
You pay it! I can't kiss cracks. I work too hard. I got my money back. You pay it!
Okay, now.